a good-looking pan, and any barmaid can be a star maid.
Welcome to another episode of A-List Classics, where we talk about must-see movies that are considered to be the greatest films of all time. I am your host, the Game Changer, Wes Troop. And in this episode, we are going back in our mint-flavored time machine to the year 1989, where we're going to be discussing the Civil War film starring Matthew Broderick and Denzel Washington. We're going to be talking about Glory. Set during the American Civil War, when injured at Antietam, Captain Robert Shaw returns to Boston on a medical leave. He soon takes on a promotion as colonel, placed in charge of the 1st All-Black Regiment in the Union Army, the 54th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment Volunteer Army. The recruits undergo a very tough training program as Shaw realizes they must be ready for the upcoming threats they'll be facing against the Confederate Army. While it's a rocky start between Shaw and his volunteers, he eventually wins them over by joining them in protest and helping the soldiers get things that all white recruits had no problem attaining. After being forced to do manual labor and perform illegal activities by a different commander, Shaw finally gets the recruits to see some action in battle. The soldiers soon attempt to capture Fort Wagner, a charge that they're afraid could lead to massive casualties. Glory is an excellent war drama. It's based on the true story of the soldiers, and the screenplay is based on the books Lay the Laurels by Lincoln Kirstein and One Gallant Rush by Peter Burchard. The film was inspired by letters Shaw himself sent home to his parents as well. The movie was directed by Edward Zwick, who's also known for his hits About Last Night, Legends of the Fall, and The Last Samurai. Glory made its theatrical debut in limited release on December 14, 1989, and was then released wide on February 16, 1990. The film was a hit with audiences as well as critics who gave it rave reviews. The battles are beautifully filmed, spectacularly choreographed, using Civil War reenactors, and Freddie Francis's cinematography gives the smaller budget film an epic feel. These sequences can also get pretty violent and brutal, as it's certainly not a film here where everyone gets shot in the chest or dies off screen. While the soldiers aren't exactly fans of Shaw at first, while he and his men try to harden them up for war, it's terrific to see him stand with the recruits on issues like the unfair pay they're on tap to receive compared to the white soldiers. It's very interesting and frustrating seeing what the men had to go through, like not receiving supplies or clothing they need, such as boots or uniforms, having to perform manual labor, and even forced to raid and set a town on fire, as many of the Army's higher-ups had very little doubt that the regiment could pull off fighting in the war. There's also a lot of tension between the soldiers themselves as they argue and get in each other's faces a number of times when back at camp. The film has a number of emotional, intense, and heartbreaking moments throughout that you might need to break out the tissues for, such as Silas Tripp being flogged in front of the regiment. Another element that makes the film stand out is it does a terrific job fleshing out the likable soldiers, letting us get to know them and find out things from their past, instead of just giving them one or two character traits, which makes us care about them a lot more. The conclusion is also rather surprising as well. The score by James Horner is brilliant and very moving, and features the Boys Choir of Harlem. The fantastic cast stars Matthew Broderick as Colonel Robert Gould Shaw, the commander in charge of the All-Black Regiment and constantly lobbying for his men to get to see action in the war. Denzel Washington as Private Silas Tripp, the angry runaway slave who has problems with almost everyone. Cary Elwes as Major Cabot Forbes, Shaw's best friend he convinces into joining him lead the regiment. Morgan Freeman as Sergeant Major John Rollins, the wise gravedigger who rises in rank through the war, and Andre Brauger as Corporal Thomas Searless, the educated free man who grew up with Robert and volunteers. Glory received 5 Oscar nominations, including Best Art Direction and Best Film Editing, and 1 for Best Supporting Actor for Denzel Washington, Best Cinematography, and Best Sound. Glory is a remarkable and emotional experience and remains to be one of the greatest Civil War movies ever made. All right, well, that's the show. I'll be back with another episode of A-List Classics very soon. Until then, don't forget to subscribe right here on YouTube, youtube.com/westside515. Like the show on Facebook, facebook.com/WestTroopAlist. And of course, you can follow me on the Twitter and the Instagram @WestAlist. Until next time, Troop out.